Hi. Last week I made a prediction before the game started that the Seahawks would cover the spread against the Colts, and I was easily right. This game is I'm predicting against the Tennessee Titans. I guess I should give a disclaimer that I don't have any insider information. I don't, and even if I did, that's not a guarantee. I'm not promising that these predictions will be accurate. Um, Obviously, if you bet, that's at your own risk. But for this game against the Tennessee Titans, the spread the last time I checked was Seahawks win by 7 points. And my prediction for this game is that the Seahawks cover the spread. Um, First of all, one thing I will account for that some people aren't is that the Colts didn't have any tape on our new offense. Our new offensive coordinator had never called plays before. The Titans will have tape. So that's an advantage that they have, that they'll be more prepared for our offense. There are two problems, though. First is that the quality of the Titans' defense, in terms of just the players on the roster, the talent, is nowhere near as strong as what the Colts have. The Colts, on paper, have one of easily the better defenses in the league. The other thing to account for is the Colts had home field advantage, and the crowd was getting really into it. They were loud, and that no questionably interfered with our offense. And in spite of that, we walked all over them. Now the Seahawks have perhaps the best home field advantage in the league, and the Titans will be facing that. On top of that, what am I saying? That's true. So their own offense will be affected, whereas our offense will not be affected. Obviously, the worst matchup from the Seahawks' point of view is going to be the Titans' wide receivers, which are really good, Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, against our cornerbacks, which are like the weakest spot of our roster. That's a bad matchup. That being said, our defensive line is very deep and probably underrated at this point in the season. The thing to account for is the Titans' offensive line is worse than the Colts. Eric Fisher was not playing in the game against the Seahawks for the Colts. But even if you account for him being out, still, the Titans' offensive line is not as good as what the Seahawks have. Then on top of that, Ryan Tannehill is a good quarterback, but he is not elusive in the pocket. He cannot avoid sacks. When the pocket breaks down, he's generally finished. Carson Wentz is more elusive. He's better at avoiding sacks and can make things happen when the pocket breaks down. And in spite of that, the Seahawks were able to neutralize him pretty well. Ryan Tannehill, when the pocket breaks down, which it will, simply because their offensive line is not particularly good, is going to be in a much worse situation. I think it's going to force them to throw a lot of quick throws. But when their game is that one-dimensional, it's that much easier for our defense. What about stopping Derrick Henry? Well, the Colts also have an excellent running game, and we were able to neutralize that. So, of course, the 12th man, too. So I think their offense overall will not be able to do much to our defense. Obviously, their wide receivers against our cornerbacks is a bad matchup, but not bad enough to the point that they would break us. On the other side of the ball, their defense will have tape against our new offense, something the Colts didn't have. We won't have the element of surprise anymore. But the problem is their defense just doesn't have the personnel, the roster, the players, the talent to match with our offense. Sometimes, even if you have all the tape in the world, like everyone knows what the Chiefs' offense is going to do, but it doesn't matter because unless your defense is superb, you can't stop them. I don't know if our offense is that good. It's too early to tell. But the the Titans offense is simply, I mean, the Titans defense, I keep getting messed up, is simply pretty weak. They're not going to have home field advantage either, unlike the Colts, to try to mess with their offense. So I think it's a game where the Seahawks will mostly dominate on both sides of the ball. Beating the Seahawks in Seattle is really hard, unless Russell Wilson is out or something, which has never happened. And I just don't think the Titans, I don't even think they can make it close, obviously, or I would say the Seahawks would have trouble covering the spread. I'm betting that the Seahawks will cover the spread. I expect them to dominate on both sides of the ball. That's my prediction. Seahawks win by at least 7, which is the spread.